The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Today on the Big 12 Insiders, we got our man Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowercat.com, discussing college amateurism. Is it in big trouble with all the NIL stuff that's going around? Is it in trouble? Is it going to be here for long? Are they going to make college athletes employees? We got a lot of that and more today on the Big 12 Insiders.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Big 12 Insiders. This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. We got Tim Fitzgerald here. Fitz, how's it going, my man?
Good. We're going to play without a safety net. We've got the dogs in studio.
All right.
We're open. We're going to have barking.
I gotcha.
We have dog drinking.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time today. I just want to remind everybody, as always, please remember to go to the channel at GoPowercat. Please subscribe, hit the likes, definitely send comments. It helps the algorithm as we're trying to grow this show. We appreciate everybody that's taking the time. We're also on Twitter now. Big 12 Insiders on Twitter. So everybody go there. Go ahead and follow. Leave comments. Whether you like or dislike, the more comments, the better. The more, the better. We appreciate it. So let's just dive into this, Fitz. So college amateurs, I mean, it's we keep hearing all these things about, are they going to make them employees? Should they have to sign contracts? Do we want to leave everything the way that it currently is? I think the one thing that we can't do, Fitz, is just leave it the way that it is. And I think the way that things are going right now, that is absolutely the last thing that we should be doing.
Well, I'm fascinated by your take here as being a former student athlete yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was a student, not the athlete. Well, I was barely a student anyhow. That's irrelevant. What would be your ideal way of going about this? Because I've seen a lot of plans, proposals to reform how college athletes are viewed and treated. And I'm really interested in how you think that what's best for the athlete. Sure.
So the first part of it is that we have to think of this as a business now. And we should have done that years ago. And I know people don't like saying that because education and school is involved. I said, but there's so much money involved. You have to think of it as a business. So do you want to make people employees? I don't know if it has to necessarily go that far, but look, you have people sign national letters of intent. Okay. So that is technically a contract that gets renewed every year. But you have to sign that to go. So with all this NIL stuff, Fitz, I just think we got to start signing contracts and keep people in place.
Right.
You can't just have somebody, okay, you're coming in for a year, you get let's just say $100,000, but I don't like it there, so I'm going to leave. There's got to be some sort of recourse where you can't just skip out because you feel like it. And I know the comeback to people always say, well, coaches do that all the time. No, they don't. They leave jobs, but there's a buyout in their contracts where they have to buy that stuff out, and it has to get paid by somebody. It's usually the other school that they're going to, or it's the coach that leaves. So that happens. If you start doing that to these kids, first of all, there's not going to be as many transfers because who's to say that you're going to get that same 100,000 from another school? Maybe it's 50, or maybe they say, yeah, we'll give you this, but you're responsible for buying out whatever your contract says. Right. You're the one who's going to do that. That would stop a lot of this stuff. In my personal opinion, it would just stop a lot of that. But I think we just have to start thinking of it, Fitz, as business. And again, we can get away from that all we want, but when you sign national letters of intent, that's part business anyway.
Right.
So just make it a business, make them sign a contract. It's every year. You got to sign a contract, or if you even want to make it 2 or 3 years, I'm fine with that. But again, it's not saying you can't leave, but whatever you leave, you are responsible for a buyout. I think that's the way to do it. You want to govern this a little bit better, then govern it like a business really would and go that route with it.
Okay, so I take from that, and by the way, that went a direction I didn't expect from you, which is awesome. But I take from this, you're all in on like a base pay for all student athletes, or maybe all revenue generating student
Yes.
athletes, um, to really make them essentially an employee, like a student employee, like I don't know exactly what on campus would compare, like a lab assistant that gets credit and maybe paid, a researcher who is a student and paid.
Right.
Something like that. Is that what you're envisioning?
I am. And here's the reason that I feel that way, Fitz. And I know a lot of people always say, well, it's not fair to everybody else. Well, you go to college for life experiences. And when the biggest life experience that you should get out of college is life isn't fair. That life is not fair. Look, I'm an old offensive lineman. I came from being a basketball star and a high school football star where I got all the attention. And then I went to being an offensive lineman where nobody cared unless I messed up. Number one, that's a hit to the ego. But two, I understand that somebody is in the spotlight is going to get paid more or get more notoriety than I am as an offensive lineman. So I understand that part of it. A lot of people don't get that aspect of it, but I do. So to say that everybody has to get paid equally is first of all, it's irrational. That doesn't happen in the real world. So why can't we make college like the real world? Because last time I checked, it is the real world. So I understand that part. I just think everybody's going to get paid a little bit differently depending on how good you are. At every job, somebody gets paid more than somebody else. Some are deserved, some are not, but that's just the way that it works. I think this avenue could work in college too, Fitz.
I kind of agree with you. I think a base pay is acceptable. It's going to put some of these athletic departments under financial strife. And I thought it was interesting, your contract buyout thought to slow down the transfer portal. Actually, I think that's a really good idea. I think it shouldn't be up to the schools maybe necessarily to drop the contracts, but up to the governing organization to say this has to be in the contract.
Absolutely.
And if I'm fine if that's not the NCAA. In fact, I think it shouldn't be. I think the logical step for institutions to do now is to vote for a new entity to replace the NCAA. And that doesn't mean everyone's out, but we're going to reevaluate how we do things. But that organization needs to say, okay, at this level, you're guaranteed $30,000 of base pay as a football player or basketball player. And with that becomes a 1-year buyout of your base contract, or even higher if there's an added contract. So maybe your quarterback's getting a base pay of $100K, which, will pale in comparison to what the NIL deals are. But I think making it up to them to repay that year's upcoming salary, so that you can go get a new guy, or make the other school pay.
Yeah.
That might stop some of this tampering.
Absolutely, it would.
Hey, you're going to take our quarterback. We pay $250,000 a year. Well, whatever NIL, you're going to owe us $250,000 a year, plus whatever you're going to pay this player.
Correct.
That might slow things down. I like it, Big B.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. What I don't think people understand, though, is if you go to the base pay and you go to a set amount of money everyone gets and you are an employee, Title IX protections go out the door.
Yeah.
There's no Title IX protections for employees. Everyone's considered an opportunity. I think some of these institutions are going to stumble themselves right into a world in which athletic departments only exist to make money, not to offer opportunity. And we will see, I don't think anyone's going to eliminate all women's sports. I think most schools will keep it in balance just because it's the right thing to do. But we're going to see a lot of smaller sports. And I use that phrase with respect.
Sure.
Less known sports, less viewed sports, and certainly sports that don't create revenue for your institution, they're going to go. They're just going to be gone.
Right.
And that's an uncomfortable reality, but it's a reality, isn't it?
It is. But I think we've gone away, Fitz, from the whole we care about all the student athletes anyway, because why in the world would Cal and Stanford be in the ACC next year? If we really cared about the student athletes, or we cared about all the sports, why would you have them traveling across country midweek, for a soccer game or a tennis match? If we really cared, and that's a bad thing to say because I care about all the sports, but I think they've gotten away from that. I think there's ways that you can still dive in and make all of that work. But the amateurism, for me, I think it's been gone. I think we just have to lean into that and just say that it's gone.
I would agree. And, there's some realities that come with it, but I don't know how some institutions are going to pay this. I don't know how, if you're Sunbelt or I'm totally blanking on other conferences other than Mountain West, MAC, how are you going to pay this money? You're not making money as an institution. Most of those institutions are already losing money and being supplemented by the university or student fees. I think, Big B, this will be the very question that will split into two divisions. Not what the Big Ten and SEC are trying to conspire to cook up.
Mm-hmm.
This.
Yeah.
Who's willing to pay and who's going to stick with the amateur status?
Yes, absolutely.
Done. No scheduling in between.
Correct.
No amateurs should be playing official games against semi-professional athletes.
Right. Nope. I think you're right about that. I think you're 100% correct about that because, people aren't going to like that, Fitz.
Nope.
But that's where we are. That's just where we are. We have to do something. I think this is, in my opinion, it's the best solution. And here's the thing. I'm a solutions person. Don't get me wrong. I'll complain about a lot, but I like to come up with solutions because I don't want to be that guy that just says, oh, well, this got to be better. This got to be better, but then won't have an answer for anything. But I'm also a guy that says my answer isn't the only right answer. I am 100% willing to listen to anything. And as long as it makes sense for everybody involved, then I'm okay with it. But it can't just be, okay, well, it's good for this school, it's good for that school. No, I want it to be good for everybody. Whoever can play, okay, let's get into this and let's make it all work. There's got to be a way for everybody to be able to, I should say, compete, but there's always haves and have-nots, Fitz. There always has been. There always will be. This country is built on that. The world is built on that. There's always going to be that. And so for everybody to always say it has to be a level playing field, it's never been a level playing field. When has college athletics ever been a level playing field? Like, when has that happened? What time period did that exist? Because I don't know when that existed. And I've been paying attention to college athletics for a long time. It's never been equal, Fitz. So it's not going to be equal now either.
Well, this just goes with my core philosophy that if the Big Ten and SEC want to break off and do your own crap, and look down your nose, nobody should schedule them, and they should remove them. You guys can go play your own championships, but we're not competing against you, including the NCAA tournament. You just lost access to it. I actually saw someone argue, well, you can't do that because the best basketball teams are in the Big Ten and SEC. What? I mean, it was just bizarre. But I think at some point, the Big 12, the remnants of the ACC, because as the more I get around this, I'm convinced it's going to come apart here pretty soon. And those other conferences need to say, okay, we need to set a threshold here for everyone to participate or not participate. If you want to stay out of litigation, Big Ten and SEC, you have to make this a choice each school gets to make, not you.
Correct.
You don't get to decide that we are demoting you to something lesser by no choice of your own. And I don't mean a conference. I mean a whole different division. You're out. We're not including you. Every school in an organization should be able to move up and down. If you're D2 right now, you have the ability to move to D1, maybe play FCS, and then maybe transfer all the way up to FBS and try to be with the big boys. You have that option.
Right.
But this option sounds like, no, you're not in the club. You can't, there's no way you can join. You got to be in these clubs. This is it.
I mean, they made it about, okay, you have to be generating this amount of money. And if you're even if you're just below that, and every so often you get in that, no, if you're not consistently doing it, then we don't want you.
Right.
And even though we know that you beat us consistently and you compete with us consistently, we get all of that. But because for, I guess, the appearance look of it, that you don't make as much, it's all about appearances. Forget what you see on a court, field, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't matter. We just want to know what the outside appearance looks like. And if it looks good and it's nice and shiny, great, we'll let you in. But if it doesn't look good, even though you beat us, we don't want you in because it doesn't look good. So,
well, after the break, I've got a great twist to this topic, and I want to see what you say on this with this question. The proposal I saw someone make, a sports writer make, and now I'm really intrigued if this is something people actually believe in.
Gotcha. Well, we'll take a quick break here, hear a word from our sponsor, Synergy Financial, and then we'll come back and I'll answer that question.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders again. This is your guy, Big B, Brien Hanley, with our man, Tim Fitzgerald, talking college amateurism, what we need to do. So, Fitz, before we took that break, you said you had a question for me.
I saw a national sports writer pose this question. If these are going to be employees of the institution and or athletic department of the institution, do they need to be students? Do they need to go to class?
Yeah, you have
I
to.
think so.
You can't take that mission, that part of it out. You can't remove that aspect of it. You know,
I agree because if you give a lot of kids the opportunity to not go to school,
they won't,
and they will regret it for the rest of their stinking lives.
Correct.
But here's the thing. If I hear one member institution from the Big Ten bring this up as a possibility, I'm calling bullshit on every academic elitism that they've ever sent out into the world.
Yes.
That we're better academically, but our athletes, they don't need to go to school. They're just here they're here to entertain us. I'm not comfortable with it, Brien. I'm not comfortable with any of that, how that implies.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's how the Big Ten has basically, should I say, maneuvered in this whole world of, realignment, that they have said, hey, we're only going to take schools that measure to us academically. Now, how Ohio State is still in that mix, that's a different conversation. But they that's what they stand on, is that. Well, then if you are going to turn around and say, but we're going to make these guys, gals, employees, and they don't have to go to school, then all of a sudden, the academics part of it, that doesn't really matter. I mean, they would literally be, I don't know, Fitz, maybe the biggest hypocrites that ever lived on the face of the earth.
Well, they are.
Jiminy Christmas, it's ridiculous.
They are. I just want to see them trip into that trap.
They're going to.
Yeah,
I think they're going to, but they're not going to allow it. That's what I think. Because here's the thing. You mentioned this earlier, and I don't necessarily disagree, talking about getting away from the NCAA. My mixed bag with that is I would be fine with the NCAA staying in charge if they changed. Now, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people, the pushback is, well, come on, Big B, they never change. This is why we're in this problem to begin with. But they haven't really ever been forced to change. That's my whole thing. They haven't been forced to change. And now that they are being forced, with that real threat of schools just saying, we don't need you, NCAA. We don't need you out there. Because you know what? If we get all these schools involved, we can have a tournament. And that funds the NCAA anyway.
Right.
I go, we could have a tournament, get our own contract. We don't need you. So if that is a real thing, I think they can stay in charge if they change. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree with you. I think the entity itself has lost its direction. When in the midst of all this stuff going on around college sports, they put out an announcement, hey, you can't give candy to recruits anymore. You can't decorate their hotel rooms.
Yeah,
you can't do their photo shoots. Look, I kind of understand the photo shoots. If they can't publicly talk about a recruit,
that's
right. How come they can tweet out their pictures or something, or make them available in there? It's great for our business. Sure. I'll say that. I mean, you've got great art for recruits when they commit or visit or have as an update, but I get the point. This one that has, by the way, folks, ask questions over in the chat. We're going to hop on some of those now, because this is an interesting from Top City Dog. How does this change happen when we live in a lawsuit happy society? And he's right. This is how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Legal challenge after legal challenge. That's why you kind of need Congress to step up and say, no, this is going to be the law of the land. This is how you have to operate.
Yes.
But they're so inept, they can't, they're just so busy playing politics, they can't solve real life problems.
No.
I mean, and granted, college athletics isn't that important, but they won't address, cybersecurity enough. They won't address spam calling. They won't address things that affect all of us on our everyday. I can't see them getting to the NCAA unless they get a lot of pressure from the states. But yeah, people won't like the plan, so they'll sue. Members of the NCAA are suing, the states are suing the NCAA for things the membership approved. So yeah, they're going to sue every time they don't like what they see. One of these schools will run to the attorney general and file a lawsuit.
They will, but it's kind of what you said. If Congress steps up, we'll see if that happens. I mean, I'm not counting on that. But at the same time, it's just, if there's we've always been in a society where somebody's looking for something. They're going to sue for something. My coffee was too hot. It spilled on my hand. I'm going to sue you because you didn't tell me that my coffee was hot. I mean, so it's stuff like that. I get it. I love the question. But I still think that cooler head, maybe I'm being naive, maybe I'm being unrealistic, but I still believe cooler heads and just wanting to get something reasonable done. I believe in that, Fitz. I do. I know it's not the popular thing to say. I know it may not even be the smart thing to say, but I'm still holding on that people still want to see competitive athletics make sense, because where it is right now, it just doesn't make sense.
Our friend K-Ned, so all the haves and have-nots are not going to take the money, and they need the money from the buy games. And I get that. I mean, if Ohio State wants to pay $1.2 million for a Saturday butt whooping, most of these schools will take it. But I think at some point you need to make an ethical line in the sand that you are playing a form of professional athletics and we are not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with any other entity in which those overlap and compete against each other.
Never.
Maybe soccer at their, how they tier things out, but I don't see that. I don't know how to address that. And maybe that means the membership would vote against it. They want to continue to compete. And I think that's a good way to kill yourself. I mean, the gap will only continue to widen, because again, I come back to this. If you give them the buy games, if you give them a victory, that's going to make it look better. But if you make them compete against each other for every game, you're going to have a lot of programs lose games that'll make their fan bases pissed off and miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's my goal. I'm going to be honest here. I want to see them pissed off and miserable, that instead of being 8-4 at the end of what they view as a blah season, they lose 4 of those wins, or let's just say 3, and instead they're 5-7. Love it. I love it.
I mean, it makes
Suffer.
sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me. The problem is you got to get everybody on board. It's like the old saying, Fitz. It's like when you're talking about these basketball and football unions, when there's a lockout or a strike. It's like football players want something changed. They could literally change it 2 Sundays is all they'd have to skip out on. Practice all week and just don't show up to the games. It would only have to happen twice, and they could change pretty much whatever they wanted to get changed. They could make that happen. But they can't do that because guys spend money. We talk about $100,000 like $100,000 is nothing when literally only half of, or I think it's like 85% of America makes more than $55,000 a year. So that's what we're talking about. So guys spend all this money and they can't save. And so missing those 2 games, they're going broke. And it's like, well, hold on. You made $100,000 last year. You can't miss 2 weeks of pay because you've spent everything to not only miss the 2 weeks to make it better. It would be the same thing in college. Sometimes you got to cut off your nose to grow a bigger nose, and that's kind of what they would be doing is just, hey, we're going to wait this out. Yeah, we're going to lose some money here in the short term, but we know in the long term, things are going to change because it's just what you said. If they went off that and teams didn't play them, how long do you think that they would keep that entity intact? They wouldn't. Losing 4 and 5 games every single year, they're not going to stay. They're not going to stand for that. That's not what they want. And you know that. Look at the SEC. They play 8 conference games. That's how you know that. That's literally how you know they wouldn't stand for it. So,
man, I tell you what, we're in for an interesting run here because this is all. I think we can recognize now that the college football playoff is going to be the fulcrum of this whole issue. It'll rest on that and teeter-totter back and forth. They're going to make a move for a 16 school playoff starting in 26, in which those 2 conferences have an uncomfortable number of guaranteed bids. And if the rest of the membership doesn't accept it, they'll say, fine, we're going to go do our own thing.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen. That's literally.
Well, I would hope Brett Yormark and anyone else that's on the wrong side of that fence has a great reply. Fine. We're going to take over our own playoff.
Yep.
And, we're going to stick with the NCAA structure, even though we're going to restructure and reevaluate all of the rules. But we own the tournament, NCAA tournament.
Yep.
I'm sorry. You're out.
You're out.
Softball, baseball. Yeah. SEC, go play your own thing. I know that's probably your most dominant sport is baseball, but you go do your thing. Yeah. I know it'll make the NCAA championship much less, but you have to draw that line. Yes. You have to say, well, we're not participating in your world in any way. So if you think you can get the numbers for viewership to support these record-setting media contracts with just viewers from your 2 conferences, have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is literally what has to happen. Like you said, lines in the sand have to be drawn. You have to be willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And the greater good would have everybody come to a reasonable stance. You can be the lead dog. You can be the lead dog. I have no problems with conferences being the lead dog, but don't try to bully us. That's where the difference comes in, Fitz, is they try to bully us. Be the lead dog and lead, but don't bully people that you classify as being beneath you. Don't treat us that way because we bite too. Yeah. And that's kind of how I look at that. So
just goes back to they're afraid of competing. They're afraid of being proven wrong, that they aren't as dominant as they think, because they wouldn't ask for this if they didn't know it was true.
That's right. That's exactly right. So we're going to take one quick break here before we end the show. Again, another word from our partners at Synergy Financial, and we'll come back in the show. I appreciate everybody tuning in today.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, Fitz. Well, again, everybody, thank you again for joining us on Big 12 Insiders. Remember, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Fitz, it's a good talk today. You know, all of this stuff, the amateurism, and we kind of got off of that a little bit, but personally, I think it all ties together.
Right.
I really do. I think it all ties together. I just think that at some point, if it's a business, and I know it is a business and it's always been a business, I just think we just have to lean into the business and just say, this is what it is. Times have changed. We got to make the best of it. If kids are still are employees, that's okay. I go, still make them students. That's okay. I go, but we have to start making sense. Put some rules and stipulations in. I've said it before, and I know I'm long-winded here, but I think the NCAA is trying to be the savior in all of this. Hey, you guys have at it. And they just let the chaos, when they knew chaos was going to happen, and then they're going to step in and say, okay, we will fix it, and this is how.
Yep.
And I think they're going to actually have solutions to that. Depending on who wants to follow that, I don't know. So
I do have a proposal for the NCAA institutions. It's to take over the FBS football playoff. They run every other sport championship except for football.
Correct.
They run FCS's championship. So why
Sure
the
do.
hell are they not going to be in charge of this? Now that you're going to a set true playoff structure, like 16 schools. I don't know, man. All I know, it's a fascinating topic. And I like what this week we've evolved this show a little bit, Big B, to being one school or one topic for the day. And I love that. Maybe our views are down now, but I think I think people are going to absolutely love this. Let's tackle that. And, you know, honestly, we can do more than 4 shows a week in this format if you and I want to get together and chew on some topics.
Absolutely. I absolutely be more than happy. It's been fun. We're growing. It's brand new. We appreciate everybody out there that's taken the time, that listens to us live and then catches us later. We appreciate it. Again, Big 12 Insiders, Tuesday through Friday, 1 p.m. live on YouTube. Also, don't miss the K-State Insiders that is on Monday, same time. We appreciate everybody. We will see you guys next week. You guys have a good one.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or